and welcome back to the Dreamcast. I am your host, Denise Walsh. I combine science, scripture, and stories that will inspire you to dive deep, break through your own personal glass ceiling, and design a life of your dreams. Do you feel like you've not been able to make headway in achieving your goals? Or did you start the year pumped, ready to move forward on making things happen and simply lost your way? Things don't need to just get better. They actually can be better. In Design Your Dream Life, I'll show you a proven pathway to take you from where you are now to a life filled with joy, wholeness, success, and fulfillment. I'll give you the keys to not just developing a plan, but taking massive empowered action to make your dreams a reality. Turn roadblocks into stepping stones and leverage the power of gratitude and forgiveness. Let's face it, taking massive empowered action and making your dreams a reality isn't always easy. So I'll be there with you every step of the way. Visit dreamlifetoolkit.com to purchase your copy of Design Your Dream Life, obtain resources, and join our free community. Again, that's dreamlifetoolkit.com. Big welcome back to the Dreamcast. You guys, our next guest is going to share on a topic that I think resonates with all of us right now, especially those of us who are navigating homeschool, virtual school, e-learning, hybrid, all the things with in school, but changes to sports. I mean, so much is up in the air right now with parenting that we all need the most support possible. And what I've learned with raising my own two boys is that you never parent alone, right? We're always in community with raising our kiddos. And I know whether you're a brand new parent or you have seasoned adult kids, this will resonate with you. Have you ever felt like you have read 28 parenting books, listened to the podcasts, asked the questions, tried all the things, and still don't quite know what to do with kids' temper tantrums? Or maybe you've listened to the one mom at the park who thinks she has all of the answers so many times, but you've decided you're just not good at this. Maybe you've even said things like, parenting is so hard, I'm not good at it. But you keep trying. You want to do right by your kids. You want to be the best parent you can be. The problem is that so much of the parenting advice we get leaves out the biggest factor, my friend, and that's you. You are your child's greatest model. And good parents are good leaders, right? So how do we lead a child into another choice when they're spiraling in aisle 4 at the supermarket? Or how do you lead a teenager to make a different choice that you know might be better for them? And what do you need to do to be a good leader? Emotional intelligence can be taught. Happiness is a learned skill. But in order to successfully instill this into our children, we don't have to become a parent and then hang on to the sidelines of our own life for the next 18 years. There's a better, more fulfilling way for the whole family. And your fulfillment is greatly going to benefit your child. And so we are going to talk about you, the parent. Not necessarily as that being your only role, right? We're going to talk about you as a person who happens to also be a parent. So big Dreamcast welcome to parenting coach, Ana Pisarri.
Oh, thank you so much for that intro. And it's so true, right? You are a parent, but you're also so many other things.
Well, I mean, we're totally friends because I totally resonate with your message of, in order to be the best mom, right? We need to be fulfilled in other areas, not just doing laundry. So before we dive into parenting tips, tricks for the tantruming child.
Anything, hit me. I'll give it to you.
I'd love to hear how you got here. So tell me where your love of taking care of parents started.
So it's interesting. I think like many people in my field of coaching, we come at it because we want to help people and we want to make the world a better place. With that, I had come to the idea of being a mom later in life. I didn't have a partner. When I was choosing to have a child, I couldn't. I wasn't capable of having a baby. And it was heartbreaking. And I could have adopted, I could have done an egg donor. And something came over me that said, Diana, you have a choice. You can absolutely be a single mom. And I am so in admiration of every single mom out there. I come from a single parent mom, but I didn't want to be a single parent mom because I knew how hard it was through my mom's journey. And so I thought, what if I just make my mission to help parent as many children as possible? And with that, I thought, I always have these big lofty goals, but I wanted to see, is there any way we can change history 2 generations at the same time, right? That we will do anything for our children. And with that, we as the adult, as the grown-up, as the leader, as the parent, has such an opportunity to make parenting the path of growth and change, as opposed to parenting the path of perfecting this child or creating the perfect child. That I put little quotes up there in air. So I decided to really devote my life to parent coaching and creating the parent shift. And what I call the parent shift is, it is one thing you can do today that makes your child's life better tomorrow. And that's how it really all began. I have been in the coaching space for a very long time. And I decided to really focus on parents and kids when I realized I, through this body, wasn't going to be a mom.
You could channel all of that love.
That's
and
right.
Really support other families as best as possible.
And, it's interesting because I find I really don't have a bias because I don't have kids. So when I come into someone's family, I am, so in awe of the job that they're doing. And I really meet them where they're at without a bias. And I think that if I had children, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have a bias, but I feel like I would. I feel like I would have said, I've seen this with my 2, my 4, and my 6-year-olds. I can call how this is going to go and, have my experience tainting that. I don't have that.
Now, I love how you said 2 generations at a time, because prior to being an entrepreneur, I was a clinical psychologist, and I started my job at 24 years old. So they gave me all the kids. Because I was like young and hip.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kids are going to love you.
You get the teenagers, you get the kids. But what I found when working with children is that oftentimes I'm really supporting the parent, because I'm equipping the parent with skills or ideas or support so that they can better work with their own child at home. And so I really honor the fact that both are important. Tell me a little bit about how you work with your families and how you kind of connect with both.
Right. Well, it's interesting, right? And I guess I didn't share this. In the beginning, I was working with children, and I thought there is no one more important to give the child the skills that I was coaching them to do with them and I was coaching children, really in, I would say, working on everything from frustration tolerance to learning how to do certain life skills which I'm sure you had experience working with your teens doing. And I just thought that this is the job of a parent. And I would rather teach the parents to do this and let the parent be the change agent. And so with that, I then changed the model of how I worked. I never met the children until I worked with the parents for 6 months. And then I moved to saying, okay, now I just work with the parents. And then after I've worked with a family, sometimes for a year or so, I will do 3 sessions with the kids just because they really want me to know them and they want me to meet them. And that's absolutely fine. But the good news that I am so always happy to report is the parents don't need me. They don't need me to work with the child because they are the change agent. They're empowered. They can teach these emotional behavioral skills. They can lead them into learning the life skills that they need to be happy and competent adults.
Right. Well, and you said something really powerful. You empowered the parent.
That's right.
With confidence and with skills to really create a peaceful home themselves. Because what we don't want is the dependency on you. Like the child starts to act out and all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So I'm calling you consistently. in a crisis mode, but instead you are coaching the parent and teaching them. So what types of issues do you find you work with the most?
So it's interesting, right? I think everyone starts working on the same skill. And I always say, no one tells you this when you have a baby. And I really wish they did. I wish when you took your birthing class, they also said the most important job you are going to have to do as a parent is learn how to emotionally regulate. If you are not calm, you cannot help your child as effectively as you want to. And so the first step is always, how do I calm myself down first so I can then help the child? And I think very often what we don't realize is we are really rooted in our stress responses, and then we are reacting to the child. And so when I say we're rooted in our stress responses, it means we are really short-tempered. We are in the 3 stress responses: fight, flight, or freeze. Right. And so, we're really short-tempered. We are, really, barking orders, or we're completely spaced out and we don't even realize that something's happened, completely in flight mode because we've been, scrolling Facebook and just kind of numbing out. It's been overwhelming. Or we're in freeze mode. We're constantly ruminating, thinking about, why can't they remember everything in their backpack? What am I doing wrong? It's just ridiculous already. Right? We're stuck in these stress responses. And the first step is, how do I emotionally regulate so that then I can teach my child how to manage the backpack? I can help my child with that they are learning. But the breathe before you respond is probably one of the most powerful parent shifts you can ever learn when your child is 2 and when your child is 22.
Right. And I when I taught anger management, I taught an anger management class. You can imagine 24-year-old bubbly, woohoo, Denise teaching me.
Yes. Oh my God, I love
that was on domestic violence charges, communication skills.
Oh my God, yes.
It was way more fun than the depression group there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things we found in the anger management class that I taught was that oftentimes we're living at let's say a 10 is an explosion. We live a 7, 8, 9. So it doesn't take much for us to get frustrated because we're already so tense. Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you teach your parents to do so that they can lower their overall stress so that they can then handle the disruptions and the blow-ups a bit better?
Right. I love that you say that because I think very often we are already waiting for the shoe to drop. So your child walks through the door and you're already noticing that they've just thrown their stuff everywhere and yet again didn't put the backpack in its place. Or how many times are you going to have to say that? So in those moments, I always say, when you've already collected some data that's going to make you reactive, I'm going to credit Dr. Laura Markham on this, but she does the stop, drop, and breathe. Okay, the stop, drop, and breathe is a real simple parent shift in which the first step is stop. Literally stop. Whatever you're going to bark at right now, stop. Stop yourself, close your mouth. And you're actually in this moment, if you are at a 10 or you are about to yell about that stuff being thrown around again, drop the agenda. So drop the agenda. This doesn't mean forever. This just means for right now. Why? Because you're not calm. You're not calm and you're not going to effectively help your child learn this if you are at a 10. Stop, drop. And the third thing, breathe. And when I say breathe, yes. And I tell my clients, if you are still going to yell at this child or criticize or just completely give up and ignore, you have to take 1 breath, 2 breaths. Sometimes one of my clients was like, she was so cute. She said, is it okay if I take like 6 to 10? And I was like, it is okay. This can take time, right? And what your child is seeing you do is make a conscious choice to not go there. So stop, close your mouth, drop the agenda. In this moment, while you are triggered, you are not going to address this with the child. You are making a conscious choice. This is not going to be the time you're going to be an effective parent, and you're going to breathe. Once you do that, then you will find a way in to go and teach the skill that you have to teach. And let's be honest, parenting is the path of teaching lots of skills. There's a lot of skills that you teach and reteach and they forget and you go back and do it again. That's what it is. It's the journey of that for many years. So I expect that kids learn and unlearn things all the time. And it, in some ways, is our hope that we've told them it and they've got it, right? But depending on the temperament of the child, they might completely space out and ever forget that you taught them how to do that. And you're going to have to reteach it from a place of patience, empathy, and not giving up on them.
Do you have a thought about how the child will respond differently once you respond differently? Because sometimes I wonder if they believe we're going to explode or get mad or they're ready for it or they're, pushing buttons on purpose. So how does us changing our response impact them?
So it's interesting. I say to clients probably from day one when they work with me, we cannot change a child overnight, but we can change our response to them, right? Now, I also remind every client, you have been in a pattern with your child that has been conditioned. So if you have been a yeller, they are going to keep going until you yell. And when you change your response, you have to expect that they might even amp up because they want to get the response that you parent conditioned them to do. You've been in some, I always say it's like choreography. We're changing choreography. And you have been in a certain routine with this child, and this child knows those moves, and that's what they're going to do. So expect it and just keep with the program. And eventually, and because you learn how to communicate and talk to your child in moments of lower stress, the child will eventually, I always say children are so forgiving and so resilient and so willing to grow, but we have to give them a little time.
Well, my guess is they don't want to be angry themselves.
No, they don't know
themselves, right?
And they don't even know, to be honest. Some kids, they get into a certain pattern. It's a pattern of behavior, right? They don't want to have that conflict with you. They don't want to make you mad at them yet again for X, Y, or Z. And many times, I always say kids are always so good at the turnaround. Very often kids, you'll have the conflict, you'll have the big moment, and then they'll come back and say, Mommy, I'm so sorry that I did, right? They always, many of my clients will say, they're so good at the turnaround. Why can't they be good at the beginning? And I'll say, well, because you haven't taught them how. And are you good at the beginning? Right? We're learning the beginning choreography of it, right? So that's okay. And we can do that.
Well, and you think about, you can't change someone else's behavior. Mm-hmm. You only have control over your own. Mm-hmm. So I remember we were doing affirmations one time and they were like, you can't do affirmations about someone else. I can't say, I'm so grateful my child cleans their room because I can't control them, Mm-hmm. So it reminds me that in order to change someone else's behavior, we change our own, which then domino effects, right?
That's right. And we just stay the course. And some of my parents will say, well, how long? How long? And I will say, as long as it takes. But you're not going to give up on this child. And the truth is, the brain is not developed until a child is 24. Yeah. So you all have time.
Yeah.
And think about, and even if we look at ourselves and our own personal journey, there's certain things about myself. I will tell you, I did not change until COVID happened, right? And it was COVID that was the moment that I was like, wow, you know what? I really need to get better at my meditation practice. I didn't change it. I was, doing things that were high stress and really quick in my reactions. And I thought, wait a second. Okay, it took COVID for me to really commit. How old am I? So we can learn things, but I always think, what becomes possible if your parent never gives up on you, right?
And that's the kind of security it reminds me of, the security that you want your child to feel.
Yeah. And so often, right, don't we see a child's behavior enough that we think we can call it? We know exactly what they're going to do. We assume the worst. We're like, oh yeah, we label them. That's my difficult child. That's my forgetful child. That's my, And I always say to my clients, think about that for a second. You label, they will fill those shoes. Let's not give up on them. So again, it's the parent's self-regulation because it's stressful. Why we label them is because we are stressed, right? So what's the first step? Learning how you manage your own stress first. So then you can take action to help the child.
So what about when you feel like other things that you think a parent can do outside of the parent and child relationship that can help decrease their stress? So when encounters come.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes we just are spending too much time together.
Oh, I agree. I think that, well, first, I think it's become such a buzzword, but I'm going to go there. Self-care is sanity. Self-care is sanity. So when I have clients and they say, wow, I am not on the priority list. I don't do anything for myself. I don't. And it all goes back to things that are about them. I will say, okay, this is where we begin. I understand that your child might be not doing well in school and we are going to get there. We will help your child. But first, we've heard it. I feel like it's almost redundant. We've heard it so much, but oxygen mask on first. And self-care does not need to look like running 10 miles. I will say self-care for me, even just yesterday, I was like, holy cow, I need to talk to my best friend on the phone for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I just needed to call and I needed to hear about her life. I didn't even need to talk about myself. 10 minutes. And I was like, I feel so much better that I talked to Christine, and it was so looking for and knowing yourself well enough to say, okay, if I have my 3 go-to self-care actions, what are those 3 things? I will tell you mine. Call a best friend, even if it's for 10 minutes, drink water. I always make sure I've got a glass of water right next to me. This is never empty. I feel like a rock star when I'm drinking it all day. I have a pitcher that fills that water. I fill it like religion. And I will tell you, you don't have to do this. I take a bath every day. I feel like it's a vacation in my life. I take a bath every day. And sometimes it takes 7 minutes. Like literally, I don't sit there that long, but it's just a moment that I'm able to breathe into my day. And those in some ways are non-negotiables for me. When those things completely go away, I haven't talked to any friends. I am completely dehydrated. What happens, right? You're lonely, you're little, I'm bitey. I have a headache, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. If we don't feel good, that puts us at a 7, 8, 9 on that scale even quicker because we're not taking care of ourselves. So putting self-care in the schedule, putting health in our schedule, and maybe even asking for help from neighbors or family so you can add some of that stuff into your day.
It's huge. It's huge. Asking for help. And it's such a learned skill for some people. And I work with clients on that because so many moms or dads feel like, and I can do it better. Or if I don't do it, nobody will, right? So the learning how to ask for help and tolerating when people say they can't, because sometimes you're going to ask and people are going to say, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that you never ask again.
It reminds me of the expectations I had of myself as a parent. I felt like I had to be super mom. I had to do all the things. Yeah. I had worked out in the morning. I was running a business. I had to have dinner on the table. And I realized that my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so I thought I had to do all the things myself. And I had to learn, she wasn't running a business and I can have someone help clean my house and I can have a babysitter a couple times a week. So, I had to learn that that the shoulds I had on myself as a parent weren't necessarily true or even helpful in my situation.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
So let's talk about sibling power because I
Yeah.
know that we've all been home since March.
Yeah, sibling power struggles are real.
Yeah. So how
he's breathing on me? So it's so I always say, and there's something that's happened in our 2020 parents, which is different than maybe our parents were. They are so involved. It's almost like they are so involved in that sibling relationship that the siblings, one of the beautiful things about having a sibling is you learn relationship skills early on because you have to if you're required to do so. I was required to do so with my brother, but my mom, that generation wasn't as involved in the relationship of siblings. And they also weren't as, I think that a lot of times parents feel like it is their job to fix the conflict. And if they don't do that, fixing the conflict, the parent actually can't be calm, right? So again, it starts with the self-regulation of the parent. As a parent, you have to learn how to calm yourself down in the face of their sibling power struggle. And that doesn't mean you always get in there and roll up your sleeves and become the mediator.
So okay? It's sometimes saying, figure it out, guys.
Yeah. So one of my phrases, and my what to say when, if someone comes in and says, Jack is being so annoying and he's, not letting me be part of the game, then you can say, oh, it's acknowledge, right? Oh, that must be so frustrating, Jonathan. I trust that you guys will figure it out. And then I am going to take my attention away. I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to march in there and tell Jack that he needs to. I'm not getting involved. I validated, and then I gave them the autonomy in their relationship. And then you see how it goes. Okay. Now, sometimes you are going to go in there. Okay. Sometimes you have to be part of helping them. I'll use this example. I had a client the other day who the kids were really, battling over the media center, and they were, whatever gaming they were on. And it was just a nightmare. And I use the newscaster technique, which basically, again, is a way of validating until one of them gives up the power struggle. And so you go in there, you're like, I see that, Jonathan, you are extremely angry that your brother keeps blocking you every time you're trying to do whatever. And you know what, Jonathan, I get that you really want to play and you want to be doing the game that you want to do. Oh, there goes Jack. And you're literally just saying what you see until someone gives up that side of the power struggle. Oh, it looks like, Jonathan's giving the controller over, and it looks like you guys, they figured it out. And now everybody's playing a new game and we're out. That's it. So what did I do that whole time? I didn't take sides. I said exactly what I see. I was present. I was connected. I was calm. And sometimes that works. A lot of times what some of these sibling power struggles are is it's a way to get attention. Also, we've gotten, and I don't know how parents are going to feel about this. I have strong point of view on it. We have decided that everything has to be fair. And if everything isn't fair, then we are being bad parents. And I just want everyone to pause and think about that for a second. How are your children going to handle real life? And part of learning how to even normalize the feeling of things not being fair is when things aren't fair in your playroom with your sibling. It isn't fair. So sometimes I will say with sharing, I'll get emails, how do I get them to share? And they don't want to share their toy. And I'll say, absolutely. And sometimes this is going to sound crazy, but I will say that that's okay. And this is how I go about it. So Kate, I know that that's a really special toy to you. You really don't want to share it right now. I would really like if you did, but you can choose not to. And Andrea is going to be sad. So again, what did I do? I gave her some autonomy. I gave her choice, and I acknowledged that might make her sister sad, but I didn't absolutely force her to share the toy. Now, I will also say, control the environment, not the child. So if you're having a play date and your kid had just got this really great Barbie dream house and they're not going to want anybody to touch it, put it away. Control the environment. Don't control the child. That is not going to be the time for your child to learn how to share the Barbie dream house.
Well, I love that. You are really putting it back on them. And instead of saying, I'm the fixer,
that's right.
I am going to You say, I trust
Yep.
you can figure this out.
That's right.
What are your options here?
Yeah.
And you're allowing them to come to the conclusion, because what will happen then is that they'll own that conclusion.
That's right.
Rather than feeling forced. And then, of course, butting up against you even more.
That's right. That's right. We have to look at, and it takes some time. Sometimes it takes some time to really land on the why of this. But I like parents to get to the root of, where am I contributing to the power struggle? Because very often we are actually contributors to it, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And what that might even look like is, you make lots of threats, but you don't follow through with anything. I always say it really sucks, but if you say something, you've got to do it. Your child needs to see you be consistent. So really be careful. I always say to parents, think real hard before you say, I'm taking away your phone for a month, right? It's a lot easier for us to follow through for something in 24 hours, 48 hours, and making sure that a child knows why the phone was taken away. Do you understand why I'm really upset right now? And what can you do better for next time? Because I really want to see you get your phone back. Right. And something I always teach, but I think this is good to throw in here. There's a distinction between punishment and discipline. Kids need discipline. They really do, because they need to know that there's rules of the road, right? You wouldn't just give your child a license and not teach them how to drive. There are rules to this game of life, but they need discipline. And the distinction between discipline and punishment, I always say, if you're punishing, you're doing it in a reactive state. You're angry. You haven't thought through it. You probably did something rash. You probably shamed your child, and we're human. Sometimes we are going to do that, right? Because your child's going to completely go behind your back and do something that you can't even fathom that they did. However, if you can remember, discipline is so much more loving. So your child might go behind your back. They might do something that you can't even believe they did. And you can still approach it and say, wow, I found something out today that I am so shocked at. And I'm going to tell you that there will be a consequence. It's going to be serious. Daddy and I haven't thought about it, or mommy and I haven't thought about it. It's coming. And I need you to know that we will handle this as a family, and you will figure out how you make this better. That's discipline.
And I feel like when you make a threat and you don't follow through on it, they learn not to believe you. Yeah. And so why would they believe you with something small if it's inconsistent? So there's 3 types of attachments, right, that a parent can have with a child. There's secure attachment, insecure. And then the other one, I feel like it's
ambivalent.
Yes. So that's the wishy-washy, right? Mm-hmm, so that's where it's like, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, it's always a moving target.
Yes. Yeah.
What we're trying to do. And listen, no one is perfect at this. So any parent that's listening to this and going, great, I did that wrong. Oh, good. I did that wrong. I did that wrong. I did that wrong. No, look at what you did right. And the good news is there are so many days that you are going to be a parent right now. When you hear this interview, you can make a different choice. And that's so empowering. At any time, you can move from doing punishment to discipline. All discipline is it's thoughtful. You've really thought it. You've thought this through, and you're consistent. I always say discipline, think of 3 words: positive, firm, and consistent. You actually can be positive in the face of discipline. And when I say positive, this is what it would look like. I really want you to get your phone back. I don't want you to have your life without your phone. And I believe that you can do it. But because you did X, I will be taking your phone, right? See, that can be positive. It's not like a party, but
well, you're honoring the child in the process. And I think that's the thing is the name calling or labeling, or you always, the things that we can say even without thinking to our kids, it can impact them on a soul level, like their identity, right? We want to build up that strength.
Absolutely. I call it red flag thinking. Right? They're always going to be a kid who is X, or they're so selfish. It's all about them. She's completely so spacey. She would forget her head if it wasn't on her body, whatever it might be, right? All those things. It's just like, where do you go from there?
Right.
Right.
It reminds me about catching them doing good.
Yeah, I catch a child being good. Always.
Yeah.
When I'm working with clients, we practice a lot front load with praise, front load with praise, front load with praise. And what that means is you might have a 4-year-old that just always has been good at taking their plate to the sink. They know how to do it. They do it all the time. Those are the things we get to catch them being good in. It's actually the things they already do well. And you can say, wow, Zach, you are so awesome at taking your plate to the sink. You do it every time without me asking. Good job, buddy. And it's finding those little moments, because think, how often does your child hear, sit down in the chair, please, stop, whatever it might be, they constantly hear the correction, the correction, the correction. How we can front load them with praise. Then when you give a correction, and I always say, we try to give a connection by teaching them how to think. So if I'm giving a correction, I might say, okay, you know what? You are doing really great with 2 out of 3 of our dinner time rules. You're doing really good with 2. Can you guess which 2 they are? And they say, I could say, you're sitting with your napkin on your lap and you're using your fork so beautifully. But there is one dinner time rule. That's not happening. Can you guess what it is? And before you know it, they put that little bottom in the chair and they're sitting up straight.
Yeah. I remember when I learned this as a leadership technique, which kind of sounds silly, but it works, right? When you're in kindergarten and they're like, thank you to Sally, who's sitting nicely.
Right.
Instead of saying, Bobby stopped, they're focused on the people who are doing it right, because everybody wants that praise.
Yes,
everybody
right.
wants to have that validation.
That's right.
And focusing on that, even if the others aren't necessarily doing it, will help draw them into, right?
Exactly. What you're basically doing is you're letting them feel good about themselves, so that when you hit them with an area of vulnerability, they can take it in. But very often we don't realize it. We don't do it intentionally, but we're hitting them all day in those areas of vulnerability because we're just pointing out all the things that they need to do, fix, and grow. I think about if you had that happen to you all day long, how would you feel? Right? It's hard.
Yeah.
But it is the job of a parent. Parenting is the job of teaching these skills, because there are. And when parents work with me, I have a list of skills that I want your kids to learn by the time they leave your home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you work with parents now? Is it on Zoom? Do you see people in person? Do you have a group coaching program? Tell me all your services.
I love it. So good question. So no one is in person, which was kind of amazing because I had been online even before COVID. So it was really helpful because I didn't need to worry about moving to online. So yes, I have clients really worldwide, and everything it's a 45-minute call. I do 3 calls a month, and it's a 6-month program. And that's in the 1-to-1. And then, yes, I do have a group program, and we will be starting in October. And that is a group of parents. And this group program actually that we're running in October will just be 9 weeks. So it will be just a way to learn the fundamentals, have a really good community of like-minded parents who are wanting to, learn and grow these skills. And I always say, surround yourself with people who raise you up and move you forward. So when you parent with people who are parenting in these positive ways and really looking you can't change a child overnight, but you can change your response to them. What are going to be the effective ways to respond to your child's temperament? We can learn that together. So that's going to be my group program. It's 9 weeks. It will start in October. So I don't do one-off sessions unless a client has worked with me for at least 6 months, for the simple reason that I want it to work. And change takes time, right? So it's either in the group program or in the 1-to-1 program. And then after that, I can certainly do a one-off session, and you can pop in and say, okay, help me. I've got, 2 kids that just don't get along and I don't remember anything that you told me. Let's do it. And
you're really laying a firm foundation.
It is. And I have to say, you know what? Think about how much time we've spent, whether it's going to college, if you became a nurse, how much time did you spend at nursing school, right? Or whatever line of work you're in, we have spent so much time growing and tending those skills, yet very few people have taken even a parenting course. And honestly, it's exhausting to read parenting books. And if you do, it's hard to do it. Right? I mean, I read every parenting book in the world, and I'm constantly reading it because I need to be on top of my game. But I do think, God, if I just had to read this and do it without someone really walking me through, how does this look with my children? What do I say and develop in my language to talk to them so they can listen? It needs to be specific for that family to help guide them to meet the child where they're at.
Well, and if you have difficult children, you are experiencing little traumas throughout the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember before I had kids, I'd go for a run with my neighbor who had small toddlers, and it felt like a therapy session. She's like, oh my gosh, this happened today. And oh my gosh, this happened today.
Yeah.
And I feel like having a place to talk about those things,
that's right,
and gain insight or other ideas is super healing to the parent as well.
And not feeling like you're the only one. For anyone who's listening out there who have toddlers, it's really hard. And I want to say toddlers are tough. And it can be really hard depending on the temperament of your toddler. So you're not alone. And there's also so many ways to learn how to reach that child. We just have to learn how to do it. And I love rolling up my sleeves and getting in there and helping that parent get through that difficult child. I always say misbehavior is a form of expression. They don't mean to be difficult. We just have to learn how to understand them. And sometimes it is really complicated, but there's so many ways. So
beautiful.
There's Dr. Ross Green, who I love. He wrote, I think, The Explosive Child or something like that. But he always says, children do well if they can, not if they want to. And I always think about that, because if a child's not doing well, it's right, they can't. And we have to figure out how to help them. What is that lagging skill that they need to learn? How is their brain processing that might be really different from our brain so we don't understand it? What emotion might be getting stuck? And that is what we need to help them unpack, right? Children do well if they can, not if they want to.
Beautiful. I love it. You guys check out Deanna's website. And it's just your name. Is that right?
Yes. It's www.dianapisarri.com. And I'll give you the link, but DianaPisarri.com. That's me. And also, I do have a Facebook group. The Parent Shift has a Facebook group, so check that out. And I give lots of free stuff, and go in there. And it's a way to just start learning and asking questions. Like if you have questions, I will answer what you post in there. So use it.
Awesome. We'll put the links to Deanna's website and the free Facebook group in the show notes below. And then I also know you have a free masterclass. How do they get access to that?
Yes. So you can go over to my website, or I'll drop a link here as well. And really the masterclass is just looking at how do you stop yelling and create more peace in your home? So there are things you can do. And the good news is I really do feel after you take the masterclass, there's things you can do the next day that will make a difference. Again, we cannot change a child overnight, but we can change our response to them.
I love that. You guys, we want your home to be full of peace. We want you and your children to be thriving. So whether it's you stop, drop, and breathe, add some self-care, or even just change your responses to your child so everybody feels secure and seen. And, I feel like those things alone will help to increase peace. So definitely check out Deanna if you're looking for more help in the parenting world. You've got a lot of great resources and community for parents who are really looking to gain skills in this area. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Is there anything you want to end with?
No, this was fun and I adore you. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know this time is a moment in history and we don't know what we're headed for. And so I just want parents to remember you don't have to go at it alone. So if you allow me to be part of your village, even if you happen to be someone who normally parents alone, let me in. And I really want to support and help you feel less alone in what is the most important job you have. Yeah. That's it.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and check out all the links in the show notes below. Thank you, Deanna.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I want to hear your aha moment from today's amazing episode. If you could leave a review at whatever podcast player you choose to listen from, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening from, leave a review and share with us your favorite part of today's episode. Thanks for hanging out, and remember to dream big.